Good afternoon. It's Dr. Gary on the road with Dr. Gary. Healthcare Practice Sales LLC is the name of our company. We're dental practice brokers nationwide. Our website is dentalpracticeguide.com and our phone number is 201-663-0935. All the information you're about to hear is for entertainment purposes. This is not legal or business advice. Please speak to your accountant or attorney for that type of advice. So today's issue is we've just had a letter of intent on one of the dental practices. It was real estate and dental practice. The buyer came in at a very, very low number. The practice has been on the market for almost a year and a half. Middle class area, good visibility, self-standing building, but small, only like 3 operatories. So the bid came in at about $515,000, somewhere around there, which represented, I guess, a little under market value for the real estate and only about 22% of the practice value, far below of what we're accustomed to seeing, as we know. But it had been sitting for a while. The seller didn't want to lose the deal. He says, okay, let's go back at $529. So you're talking like a small percentage increase, very small. So we sent out to the seller over the weekend, $529. I then spoke to the seller yesterday because now it had been about 48 hours. The buyer. I said, the buyer, we've come up very little and we want to make a deal. And the buyer said, hey, it's obvious that you're serious because your increase is very small. Let me consider this, is what he says. So 48 hours later, the buyer gets back to me and says, here's what we're going to do. I know my first bid was $515, and I know the counteroffer was $529. However, I'd like to now offer $490. I'm like, what are you talking about? Your bid was higher. Your starting bid was higher. He gave you a very small counteroffer, and you're going down below your original bid. He said, yeah, but we can now do it with cash and go to a quick close. I said, well, cash is the same to the doctor because the time period to get approved from the bank could take a little bit longer, but it's not going to take a significant amount of time. He'll get approved once the bank has all the information, 10 days to maybe 2 weeks. So it's going to be relatively fast. He's been sitting on it for a while. So by you saying it's all cash, it's great that you're in that position, but you can also get 100% bank loan, 100% on the practice, 80% bank loan on the building. I said, I don't want to go back to my client with that kind of offer. You're now coming in below the offer that he counteroffered at and below the offer that you initially gave. I said, all you're going to do is create badwill. You will destroy what he cares about you in the future, and after the practice is over, you're going to destroy that relationship for a small amount of money. You're talking about $25,000. Don't do that. It is bad karma, bad feelings. Here's what happens. Sellers want to sell to somebody they at least are comfortable with. It's all not about the mighty dollar. Yes, they want to get the highest dollar amount, but they'll always sell to somebody. If the dollars are close, the offers are close, they're going to sell to somebody that they like. Always the same, never changes if the bidding numbers are close. So I explained to him, you underbid this guy, so you go in below your original offer. And even if he would accept, he's going to have a bad taste in his mouth. He's not going to care about the practice in the future. In other words, he'll abide by the terms of the contract, but once he's out of there, he's not going to care. And I'll give you an example of what happened. We had one doctor that was very upset that they really lowballed him, and he didn't like that. He always had a bad taste in his mouth, but he did the deal and was happy it was over with. So he told me 2 months later, he's in the Caribbean sitting, and he remembered about a woman or a male or woman that was getting divorced, and a big settlement was coming through. And the patient said, someday, when I get my settlement, I'm getting everything done. I'm going to do a full mouth rehab. And he remembered that, and he knew that month the settlement went through, and she received all the money. But he said to me, I'm not calling the buyer. I don't have to, I'm not obliged to, and I'm not calling him. He got me upset. So you're talking about $40,000, $50,000 makeover out the window because the buyer played it too tight. I mean, this happens time and time again. Another instance where the seller felt he was really beat down too far. He did the deal. Yes, he was happy to sell the deal, but still did the deal. Always felt he sold it way too cheap and somebody beat him up because he wanted to get out. And what happened in that instance was a parent's son, I think it was his son, was receiving an inheritance because the dad had passed away just recently. This is after the closing. And he was another one that said, I want to get everything done in my mouth. I don't have the money. I want to get it done. And my father's older, and he told, I'll be passing on soon, and I'll be getting an inheritance. I'll then have the money to go forward. That was another instance where the seller told me, a couple months after closing, that guy did get the inheritance, and I'm not telling the buyer about it. I just have a bad feeling in my gut, and I just was unhappy with the deal, and I'm not telling them about it, and I'm not obligated by contract to tell them about it. The message is never turn off the seller. Don't underbid so low that you get a great deal, but then the seller's angry. And it can work against you, and you'll never know it. So don't piss off the seller. Do whatever you can. Be fair and equitable, and in the end, it'll work out for you. All right, signing off, Dr. Gary.